I wanted to give you a behind the scenes look of what it's like to add strategy to your podcast. You're going to hear from a recent client of mine who felt stuck and unclear about where her podcast was going. Her podcast was on 2 seasons and hardly had 100 downloads. We're going to go over how I supported her to take her podcast to where she wants it to go and the potential that it continues to have through the process of utilizing the strategies that we talked about and worked on together. I want you to hear it from her. So here is her story. Most podcasters don't grow because they don't have a strategy. No more. Welcome to the show, Podcast to Grow, where I help coaches and entrepreneurs turn their podcast into their most powerful business tool. I'm Elena, and I'm breaking down exactly how to get more listeners, more impact, and more sales. Let's get into it. Hey, Keri. So before working with me, what are some of the struggles that you had with your podcast that you were just like, I can't, fix what's going on with my podcast. I need some help. Yeah.
So the biggest thing, because I'm still new to podcasting because it was only 2 seasons in when I reached out to you, but one of the things I wanted to make sure, I guess, focus on was having the right framework moving forward. So like having the right titles to be discoverable, because I know 11 people have podcasts, so it's a lot of competition out here. But the feedback that I always received was that, the podcast content was really good. So one of the things I wanted to focus on was really optimizing my podcast to be found and get more downloads, especially because the episodes to me were good, and then other people would tell me like, oh, I really enjoyed this episode. So my main thing was like, how can I position myself to get more downloads for the podcast and get more eyes on it? So that was the main reason I reached out.
Awesome. Yeah. So when I saw your clips on LinkedIn or anything, I'd be like, wow, Keri's killing it. I love what she's doing with her podcast. And I love like everyone that you're interviewing. And it seemed like you had such a great base and your storytelling was on point. So what had you reach out to get the support for the strategy part?
Well, because you post about podcasting all the time on LinkedIn. And I thought your tips that you were sharing were really, really good. And it's not, I haven't found a lot of people in that space that that focus strictly on podcasting. Usually it's, okay, you focus on content creation, social media, but I hadn't really come across anybody that was in the podcast lane. And everything you were sharing was specific to podcasting, audio podcasting, because YouTube videos is totally different.
Yep.
So that was one of the main reasons, because we were connected on LinkedIn for a while, and the information I thought you shared was really, really helpful when it comes to, whether it's podcasting for a creative space like I'm in, or someone podcasting for, their business, service-based business. So, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you so much, because I just saw your videos and I was like, wow, she puts in so much great production and everything looks so good. And I was like, I think had talked a little bit prior to you starting a podcast, and I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to work with Keri. So I'm super excited that I did get to work with you before you started your 3rd season. Can you share maybe 1 or 2 shifts that you had while working with me that helped you get some traction?
I think doing the amplification sprints. So we had talked about that because I had already thought about doing, some like clips in between to because I didn't want the podcast to go stale. Like Instagram, I don't really care. Like you'll get season 3 when it launches, but I didn't want my YouTube channel and the audio podcast portion to kind of be stale for a couple months, especially because we're in the summer season and, a lot of people takes breaks. So one of the biggest things was like mapping through not just posting clips, because all I was going to do was just take clips and post it. But you were like, no, you need to tell people you're posting it, give them a little nudge to share the content, ask, go our whole amplification strategy. So I think that was helpful, because one person finally out of all of them, she did start posting clips, because she never posted them in the first place.
Yeah.
It was one of my friends. I called her. I was like, just so you know, I'm sending you this information. And she's like, did you ever send me the clips? I'm like, I sent everything the first time, but you'll be getting it again. And she posted a few clips on TikTok. So I think like having a strategy around that was really, really helpful. Thinking about how I want to do that moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's because I see some people will post shorter clips in between episodes, but I like the idea of like waiting till the season's over and then kind of helping re-engage, especially
Yeah.
older episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once my season 3 is over, I can be reaching out to people from April, May to kind of get their episodes going again. So that was the most helpful. And I think secondly was reframing how I do the podcast titles. Because I had titles in there and they were good, but then rethinking the titles and like what people may be looking for, what's really going to stand out, I think was helpful. Shifting shifting the perspective around because I think I was just focused more on the actual person in my titles and like what they did versus the main thing we talked about in the episode. Because we did have some major topics in the episodes, but I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
highlight that in the title, so you helped me fix that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you have guests on, it's easy to kind of get lost in like what they're doing and talking about them. But I think the part that we added in was adding more of your thoughts and the way you approach,
Mm-hmm.
the way you look at community or the way you look at marketing, and having you shine just a little bit more, I think was the important piece that I saw change. And yeah, I love that helped you shift those few things with your podcast.
Yeah.
Um, what changed in how you show up for your planning your podcast now
Mm-hmm.
compared to before?
I think, and we had talked about this before we started this session, this recording, but I think thinking about like my introductions, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the little details. Because to me, I'm just like, okay, you guys, welcome to another episode of the podcast. This is the person I'm talking to. Jump right in. But I think being a little bit more strategic about how I'm doing the
Mm-hmm.
introductions because these are really, really great topics that we're having conversations about. And so,
Yeah.
kind of giving people a preview so they know what to expect, I think
Mm-hmm.
was the biggest shift. So, it kind of makes me pause a little bit and do a little bit more planning before I sit down and start talking to people. I'm like, okay, I really got to think about, like, I know the topics we're going to cover. So, how do I want to introduce them when I do the
Mm-hmm.
introduction? So, the biggest shift was just having a little bit more structure, like, still being, my natural self, still having the kickback flow, but just a little bit more tailored. In that, and I think the second thing was probably making sure I include my newsletter in the description
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I have a whole great newsletter. My dad just called me this morning to tell me how impressed he was about
Oh,
this month's edition. And but I
nice.
wasn't really doing a good job of, putting that in the description. And, you had me change my outros to say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to the newsletter so I can all
Yep.
so that's always there and I don't have to remember to say that. So
Yep.
just helping me be more strategic and I think doing like a whole 360, having like an ecosystem for all of the different
Mm-hmm.
content pillars that I have so that they all make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, and I love that that was able to happen for you
Mm-hmm.
during our time together. Is there any other maybe surprises or things that stood out through the process?
Um, I think the ideas for monetization was different. Like the whole giveaway option. It
Mm-hmm.
was something. It was some things I hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah.
Um, even even how we updated my guest intro form, like having having the form for people who are even interested. So like, I have the form for people that I reach out to. Like I didn't even think to do that, but even having a form for like, hey, if you're interested and you email me, I can just send somebody a link. You can fill all this information out, and then I can deep dive versus having to go through emails. So it just like streamlining the workflow,
Yeah.
I think, was helpful too
Yeah.
because it's great that people are listening and have found it, but it's also overwhelming. So trying to put some stuff in place so I'm not overwhelmed, I think was the most surprising. Like, oh, okay, let's just like clean this up, create this form, streamline that process so that I can focus on all the other things. I think was probably the most helpful and surprising.
Yeah. That is that's great. And I definitely feel like I kind of pushed you a little bit on those monetization ideas,
Yeah.
but I wanted to give you all of these options because I know the potential of your podcast and
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like it's ready for monetization
Well, I
as
appreciate
soon
it.
as
Yeah.
yeah, as soon as you're ready to do that part. But
Because I'm over here like,
um,
I need certain numbers. You're like, no.
yeah,
You're like, no.
Yeah, definitely with the work that you're doing.
Hmm.
I really love your podcast and what it stands for. So I really believe in it. Um, so, what are some things you would say to someone who's like thinking about maybe they have a podcast and they're
Hmm.
like, my podcast is just doing okay, um, and it's fine. But what would you say to someone who's on the fence and thinking that they have everything for their podcast, but maybe they need a little bit more and they should work with me to help them do that?
Well, I will definitely tell them to check out your content because I understand like it's easy to say to do something first, but like definitely check out your content and then also think about what it is that they want to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is it that what's the outcome that they want, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you want more downloads? Do you want things streamlined?
Yeah.
Because I think knowing that is very helpful in reaching out for support, like what it is that you're actually looking for and the results that
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for. So I would definitely tell someone like go down the rabbit hole, consume all the free content,
Yeah.
and then make a
Yeah.
decision to reach out, especially if you want to streamline your process, if you want
Mm-hmm.
monetization ideas, and if you really would just want to like tighten up some stuff. Because I was in that position where like it wasn't
Yeah.
bad, but
Yeah.
it was like it's just a little minor details to kind of help my workflow be a little bit easier and also become a little bit more discoverable. So I said if those are things that they're looking for, to definitely reach out.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing when you came to me.
Mm-hmm.
You had your podcast. It was working, it was doing the things that you wanted it to, but you knew that it had more potential. You
Mm-hmm.
knew like there's just some things I need to clean up right before season 3 comes out because I need, to get this to where I want it to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for chatting with me and
Mm-hmm.
letting everyone know. Awesome.
Anytime.
If you listened to this episode and you felt heard or seen and thought, that's me. I am stuck where I am with my podcast and I just need help. You can get the help by joining Podstar today to get the exact same strategies that I gave to this client to work through all of those bumps and struggles that you're having and get you over the hump. If you want more personalized support, you can reach out to me and we could start some strategy sessions that will help you to clarify and get you to the point of not knowing to knowing. And you can just DM me strategy or go ahead and book a discovery call with me. That's a wrap for today. If you loved this episode, let's keep the momentum going. Leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more coaches and entrepreneurs find podcasts to grow, and I really appreciate you being here with me. And if you're ready to grow your podcast strategically, join us inside Become a Podstar today, my membership where I help you turn your podcast into your most valuable business tool. Head to the link in the episode description or GM me Podstar on Instagram at Vibe and Voice Media. That is VIBNVOICEMEDIA to get all the details. Can't wait to chat with you. Hit follow and I'll see you next week.